everyone. Welcome to the Cynthia Linux Show. I am your host, Cynthia Linux, here again to remind you that this is the best season of your life. As we go through this journey of self discovery, which is one of the most significant steps that you can make in your adult life, it's important that we understand that there are a lot of components to you. So even though it may seem challenging in one area, understand that your whole makeup is all governed by the thoughts that you have registered in your mind. And we have been, uh, sometimes in life we blindly follow the programming that has been uh, downloaded into our system throughout our lives. We blindly follow. We are so conditioned to follow, and we don't really realize that certain things may not work, or they are not working the way they should, or we may just wait so long for things to work, hoping, wishing, praying, expecting, and so forth. And if things are not working, then you've got to make some changes. Now, there are several components that makes you up. There's psychological, there's spiritual, there's physical, there's emotional, there is financial, there is social. Your whole being is made up of all those components. And when you endeavor to change yourself or to discover your true authentic self, it affects all areas of your being, because what you want to is to come into a place of overall well-being. But what I have seen, or what I have learned, or what people have shared, based on what people have shared, I learned that um, people are not honest with themselves. You have to be intellectually honest with yourself when you are making these changes. If you're not intellectually, because you can be emotionally honest, or emotionally accept the things, the thoughts, or uh, mentally accept those things. That's because, again, we're so conditioned. I went through that, and I shared before, I had to do a wash, a mental wash, get it out. And and unless you're intellectually honest with yourself, you will never go to the other, come into a place of your true authentic self. And it's not easy. It's not hard. It's challenging. Because when you are conditioned to do things a certain way, when I wake up and I brush my teeth, that is a routine that doesn't change. When I take a shower, there's a routine that doesn't change. The way I soap my body, the way I dry myself, it simply does not change. Why? Because I've conditioned myself to do it that way. And guess what? It works for me. If I find that it no longer works, then I'm going to change it. Or if I decide to change it, instead of using a washcloth, I may want to use a loofah or brush, which I sometimes change up and do, and I do things differently. But my routine remains the same. And so I would get up and, I brush my teeth the same. I start this way. I start on the left. I don't start on the right. I am conditioned. I condition myself that way. But in our lives, we not only are we conditioned with certain programming, but we have downloaded it into our system throughout the years, and we just go through these programs day in and day out. But when you're going through this journey of self-discovery, it's a whole different ball game. It is a whole different ball game. Number one, you've got to be intellectually honest with yourself. Because if you are not intellectually honest with yourself, you will not arrive at that place of freedom. And if you're not feeling that sense of freedom, of liberty and being able to just be yourself, that's because you don't have the truth. You're not in your truth. Because once you're in your truth, that is what sets you free. It is that truth that will set you free. So I had an experience, and what I have learned with all this is that what needs to happen really is you need to do a reset, return to factory settings. And it dawned on me because a month ago I had an experience, and I just resolved it a couple days ago. Well, actually Friday. I just resolved it. And it had to do with my phone. My phone is a mobile office. My phone is a um it's a mobile office. There is so much data, files, photos, and information in this phone. Fortunately there's an iCloud, because if I lose this phone, I still have access to that data. I think that iCloud technology was one of the greatest technologies that really complements the usage of the phone. So, and I like everything that's on my phone. I want it to work. I need it to work. So anyway, about a month ago, we were driving out to a far place. We had never been before, Lucas, Texas. We had never been. So we were going in my vehicle. Most of you are familiar with what a CarPlay is. CarPlay is a technology that is connected to your phone through Bluetooth technology and the internet. And as soon as you get into your car, all the audio, depending on what you have connected to the Bluetooth, all your apps and all the functions that you need, they show up displayed on your dash. And I've got my music, I've got maps, I've got my messages, my phone. I've got a whole bunch of uh, office things that I need, and they show up on the dash. And so we were getting ready to go to Lucas, Texas, and I said, "Hey Siri, directions to 2304 Shadowwood, whatever, in Lucas," and no response. And I thought perhaps I didn't. So I took my phone, and usually when I would say, "Hey Siri," Siri would show up on the dash, on the screen on the dash. And so Siri did not respond. Be quiet. So I'm saying Siri, and she's showing up over here. So anyway, so I said it a few times and it just would not engage. So my husband said, "No problem. Let me just use my phone, and we'll just get it." Now that's okay, but the fact that mine wasn't working, that really created a situation in my mind. Because what happens is when it shows up on the dash, not only is there a map, a directional map, but it also speaks, go to left to Ponderosa Trail and turn left, and it tells you all of that. And I like that because, it just tells you. You just drive and you can look at the map and it tells you. So we got out there, and okay, next day I went to a new place that I had to run an errand, and I went someplace else, and I didn't I needed to use my GPS. So I said, Siri, and I gave the address, and Siri would not engage. It would not engage on the CarPlay, on the dash on the CarPlay. Now, if I took the phone and I said, and I asked Siri for the direction, I would get it on the phone. But that's not what I want. I want it on my dash so that I wouldn't have to be looking at the phone. So anyway, it didn't work. I called the dealership. Now, my car is only about a year old, not even a year old. And so is my phone. So I know that I have two units that are new. So I called the dealer and I said, I need to bring my car in. The CarPlay does not work. They scheduled it. I took it in. They gave me a loaner and they called me back. They said it's fine. I went there, and the service guy used his phone, and he got it. He got the GPS. The GPS was the issue. And so when I tried to do it with my phone, it didn't engage. And I said, well, perhaps because I'm inside, the service area, whatever. So I took off and I left and tried to get the GPS. It did not work. Took it back, and he said, I think it's your network. Network meaning the provider for my phone service. So I called them. They did a network reset, and it still didn't work. This is now uh, week number 2, and they did a reset, network reset. It didn't work, and then they said, I think it's the phone. They said it's the phone. So I called Apple. They did some things. It didn't work. I went to the Apple store, and they did a diagnostic. They took the phone, excuse me, and they did a diagnostic, and they said the phone is perfect. There's no glitches. Nothing is wrong with the phone. I just went back and forth. Took it back to the dealer. Because the thing is this, yeah, I may have been obsessed with it, but I don't like to have things that do not work. If I have something, especially gadgets and electronics, if I'm going to have a piece of electronic, it has to work. Otherwise, I'll just get rid of it. If it doesn't work, either you fix it or you get rid of it. And my husband was saying, well, this is really, he said, well, if it works on the phone, I said, no, it needs to work in the car. Because if the car has CarPlay, then it needs to play. So I decided I was going to get another phone, a new phone. Again, this phone is new. So I go to the phone store, and I said, you know what? I need to get a new phone. And they said, why don't you wait until September, because a new iPhone 16 is coming out. And I said, well, I've got bigger issues. He said, well, what's the problem? I said, well, this phone is not engaging with the CarPlay. And he said, well, you may need a network reset or whatever. And he did a new network reset and so forth, and it still did not work. And so I left. He came into my car, and he set his up, and it worked for his phone, but it still didn't work with my phone. And I said, I just can't. I said, this needs to work. So anyway, I left, and yeah, it was a point of frustration. I was a little frustrated. And that night I just sat and I thought, I've shared before with you that I like to figure things out. I thrive on that, because in my mind there has got to be a solution. And either I would go to the place and find the solution, or find the solution myself and resolve whatever issues that I may have and so forth. So anyway, I just sat and I was just thinking, it's got to work. So the next day, following morning, I called Apple, and I got Rachel. And Rachel spent a long time on the phone with me. She said, let's go through this. And she did one of those, what do you call it? When they can sign into your phone, um, remote access to your phone. And, she said, click here, whatever. And I did all that. Then she said, let's go out to your car and see if we can fix it. I used my lightning rod to see if, perhaps it needs a lightning rod, and it's not happening wirelessly, because of course it's supposed to work wirelessly by Bluetooth. So I used, I connect the wire and whatever, and it still didn't work. And I said, you know what? I think, because it occurred to me, I said, what if I do a factory reset? A factory reset. And she said, well, she said, that's the last thing we like to do, because, that is like, that's the last thing we want to do. But, fortunately, there's that technology of the iCloud. I think it's the greatest thing since, that complements the iPhone. And, and I said, well, I said, I've got thousands of information in this phone, and I cannot afford to lose one dot, not one period, not one comma. I've got photos, I've got files, I've got data, I've got apps, I've got a lot of stuff in this phone. This phone is a walking, it's a mobile office. It is a mobile office. Fortunately, all the information in the phone is stored in the iCloud. Again, I think it's the greatest technology. So she was very hesitant, and I don't know why, but she said, a factory reset. She said, and if you went and you got it was, they did a diagnostic and said it was perfect. I don't know that a factory reset. I said, you know what? I want a factory reset. Let's do a factory reset on my phone. So again, we went back to make sure that everything was stored in iCloud and all the things that I needed and so forth. And she said, and this process also, it takes a long time, and it does. It takes a long time. But I was willing that it was last Friday. I was willing to do it because that was like my last resort. Again, I wanted to buy a new phone because I said it has to work, and if it worked on, when I had taken it to the dealership, they tested the CarPlay with two separate iPhones, and two Androids. What's this bubble thing? I've got a fascinating computer here. I didn't do any balloons, but anyway. So they tested it with four different phones, four different devices, and it worked. But it just would not work on mine. So I'm thinking, okay. And since, I went to get the phone and they discouraged me from getting a phone because they said, iPhone 16 will come out in September, and then, you're better off getting a brand new phone, brand new uh, make and model instead of. So I insisted to Rachel that I want to do a factory reset. So we went through the process and so forth. You know, three-quarter of a time into the process, I said, you know what? I said, I think I can take it from here. Let it go through the process, and I know those steps because I know a little bit of technology and so forth. So I said, thank you. She hung up and whatever. My friend, when this factory reset was completed and I took my car out, I said, Siri, uh-huh, be quiet. I just said Siri, and they, bye. It shows up. Sorry, I don't understand. I've got my iPad right here to my right, and I just said Siri, so Siri shows up. Anyway, so when I summon uh, him to what I needed, I said directions to Nordstrom's store Galleria. My friend, guess what? It worked like a charm. It went back to what it did before. I mean, as a matter of fact, it gives me, and I didn't realize because I use one certain map, but then I've got Google Map, I've got Siri Map, I've got Waze, and it just it showed up like brand spanking new. It was resetted to factory to the original settings, and it worked like a charm. So I start, when I got to Nordstrom, and on the way back, I said, directions to home. And it pulled up my home address, and the map showed up, and the voice, engaged, connected. It was configured perfectly. Of course, once it was reset to its original factory setting, I had to go in and configure the phone and do the Bluetooth, connect my vehicle, the phone to the vehicle, and all of that. I had to do that because that's part of the resetting, to setting it up again to its original thing, and it worked. I mean, it worked like a charm, perfect. So wherever I went, even if I was going to the closest grocery store, I would say directions to Kroger or directions to Whole Foods, directions to Sprout. I mean, if I was going to the corner, I said, and it worked. It worked. So I called my husband out. I was so happy. I said, honey, I said, sweetheart, I got a new phone. And he was like, because he thought I bought a brand new phone. I said, no, I didn't have to. I said, my phone has restored like new. And when you get your phone, you have to do, it has the thing that says, hello, ¿cómo estás? Hola, and all that. And you have to, if you want it in English, then you just say hello and you start working it. And then there's a lot of things that you have to put back in place. Your apps, you have to make sure that, and your face ID and all your banking, all of that, you've got to put it back into sync. You have to synchronize it. You have to configure everything to make sure that it's working according to your settings and so forth. So when I thought of that, I made an analogy to this whole journey of self-discovery. And what came to my mind is that sometimes we try to tip through things, and we find out that we hit a brick wall, and this doesn't work and that doesn't work and this doesn't work, and sometimes we get discouraged. But as we forge ahead, and the whole idea is we need a reset. We need this whole journey of self-discovery is a reset. Return to factory settings. How were you when you first arrived? you know uh Mother's Day was just a few days ago, and generally on Mother's Day, I really just bask in the memories that I had with my mom, because we had such a great relationship. And I started out, as a matter of fact, I said, I just kind of shared with you uh, what I wrote, because it was just so special. And then, of course, I created a video and so forth. That just soothes my heart. That's why I have over 50,000 photographed in my uh, the iCloud, stored in my phone, because I do a lot of pictures, because I can go back and just, that's just my therapeutic way of soothing my heart, my emotions, when I need it. Sometimes if I get a little low or discouraged or sad because of whatever, I can go back and make reference. So about my mother, I wrote, ours was love at first sight. The moment I saw her, I loved her. What I am saying is that the moment I saw her, I loved her. I was like an infant. So just think of it. I loved her from the moment she was the first person I saw. You know what I mean? Doctors may have taken me out, but by the time I opened my eyes, I was in my mom's, you know, arms, and saw her and loved her till the day she passed. At that point in my life, there was such an innocence. There was just uh, not knowing. My my whole computer system was blanked. It was blank. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything. I didn't even know how to speak. I didn't know any words. Nothing. So I arrived with factory settings, a blank slate, just blank, canvas blank, nothing written on it. So when I say return to factory settings, I liken that to the journey of self discovery. Why? Because, when you go back, it's like I'm thinking, that whole discovery, when I discovered my mom, with my first uh, sight, and I saw her and I said, you know, ours was love at first sight. Obviously, she adored me, and when I saw her, I adored her too until the day she passed. But just think of that. I arrived with a blank slate. The canvas was clean, there was nothing on it. And with time, I learned to say mama, mommy, mom, mama, papa. You start, I was conditioned with certain things, words, how to speak, how to eat, how to walk. You know, this is new settings. So a new programming was installed in me. And by the time I reached this season, my mind was so programmed, so conditioned. I had downloaded all this information from, society and the culture and the traditions and conventional norms and religious teachings and, my mom's training and, protocol and etiquette school and college. And I had downloaded all those programs. Now, were they all malfunctioning? Not necessarily. No, because there are certain things that I retain that I know that are attached to my true, authentic self. But the core of this whole program, when it malfunctions, when whatever program that you downloaded into your system throughout your lifetime comes a point where you realize it's malfunctioning, it no longer serves you, it no longer serves you. So what do? You need to remove. If there's a, you see this phone, remember, they said they did a diagnostic and the phone was perfect. They said there was nothing wrong with the phone. What was it? I've got a bunch of apps. I've got apps, lots of apps, 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 you know, apps. One of the programs, one of the apps that I had in my phone malfunctioned. As a matter of fact, when I was talking to Rachel, the technical support, with Apple, I asked her, I said, do you think my phone was hacked? And she said, no, it's not easy to hack an iPhone. And we would circumvent that, and we have security set up in place where we can detect that. So she said, no, there's no hacking going on your phone. But what I came to realize that there was an app. There was an app that malfunctioned. Not only did it slow down the performance of my phone, just like our lives can just slow down because of the information that we have retained, that you're too old for this, you're too old to get started, you don't have enough money to do this, or you don't really have the understanding or the savvy, you can't do this, you can't do that, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't go there, and all of that malfunction was happening in my phone. And that's why my GPS was not connecting. And I need my GPS to work because my GPS is what gets me going. I'm on the move all the time. I I like to be able to know where I'm going. My GPS has to work. That's just like my own personal GPS. I'm moving forward. I'm going forward. I am forging ahead. I'm growing. I'm developing. I'm expanding my whole horizon. I set myself up to learn. I want to learn. I'm curious, and I remain adventurous in everything. My GPS needs to work, not only in my phone, but in my life. I need to know. So I needed to download, all the stuff that has been programmed. in me, and the things that I've been conditioned to do, to follow, to, you know, and what I come to realize, and you'll find that too, is that all these things are from external sources. They're all from external sources. So it's not like something that I discovered. Now I've discovered a lot of things about me. One of the things is like figuring things out. I thought they can't figure it out. You know, the car dealership cannot figure it out. My network provider couldn't figure it out. And the Apple, who are experts, they could not figure it out. But I'm thinking, Cynthia Linux, you can. You can do it. You can. And I, I remember, my husband went to bed and I sat, you know, outside, and I was just thinking, I just can't, if I have to wait until September to get a new phone, I'm waiting that. And, I could access GPS on my phone, and I didn't make a big deal out of it. I could access it on my phone and it'll work. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted to be able to access it on the dashboard of my vehicle so that I could ride in style, listen to the directions, take a look at the map, see when it's turning left, when it's turning right, and just listen. That's what I wanted. May not be a big deal to you, but it was for me. If it's in my car, I need it to work. And I figured it out. I said, let's do a reset to factory settings. Reset to factory settings, you know what that is. But for those of you that may not be familiar with it, it means you erase everything that's on your phone, everything, every information, every photo, every data, every file. You erase everything from your phone, and it's reset like a brand new phone. You have it as if it was a brand new phone. You have to set everything up again. I had to go back to, remembering my passwords, usernames, all of that. I had to remember all of it. I had to, because it's all it's all in the data, in the iCloud. So I had to do some magic to get my passwords back. My Google password, my iPhone password, and some of those I have memorized. And I could not even check it on my iPad, because when you reset, it does the same to iPad. So I was just, it was just a challenge. But it was a good challenge because I just knew in my mind that I could figure it out. That's what I do. I just know I can figure it out. I can solve this situation. I trust a lot in my own intelligence, yeah. And I just knew that I could figure it out, and I did. And just like our lives, we have to erase, erase. When I say that, some things I keep, I think this. Do you see this in the background? It's fascinating. I wish I had control as to when it happened and when it doesn't. I don't know. Ever since I bought this is a new laptop, and ever since I bought it, that's what happens. All these things. Anyway, the point is, um, when I when I say that some things I have kept, some things, when you reset, there's certain things that are just by default. Like I shared before, uh, obey the laws of the land. And that's so that you can live in harmony with those that are around you, that you can have cohesive relationships with the people that are around you, not only your family, your friends, but just people in your community, in society, wherever you go. So that's one of the training instructions, things that you learn that you do. So you don't want to get rid of that, because then you, you put yourself in jeopardy. You don't want to, not follow those guidelines because they are set up, a traffic light is set up to protect you and others. So there are certain things that we just keep. Safety precautions and things of that nature. Don't go in the pool by yourself or, diving and so forth. And, you just take a lot of safety precautions. But the core of who you are, the core of who you are, what are the things you like? What's your personality like? What is your style? What are your colors? What's your jam? What kind of music do you like? What kind of movies do you enjoy? Where would you like to go to travel? Where would you like to travel? What would you like to accomplish? What are the things that you would like to accomplish now? Are you interested in starting a business? Do you want to do something else? You may want to be a coach, a life coach. It's a great career because you get to help people, encourage, motivate, inspire, walk alongside people and help them meet and achieve their goals. It's a great career. What is it that you want to do? This now is about you. This time is about you. You do a reset and start afresh. Set up boundaries and make sure you don't allow people to speak energies on you that doesn't belong. For someone to say, oh, yeah, she's shy. Oh, she's so quiet. No. Whatever you are, your personality, you bring it out. And if you're, on the quiet side, then that's okay because you will be comfortable with that. But if you're bold and bodacious and loud and, have a good laugh, like is my personality, then you need to be that. Because if it's your genuine, authentic self, that's what, when you go back to factory setting, is if that's who you are from the beginning, then that's who you are now. It may have been suppressed by programming that we have downloaded into our minds and have been conditioned to just live that way. And it's not really you. And you're feeling frustrated. Just like, this whole thing with my phone, there was a level of frustration that I had not had in a long time because I just don't put myself in those situations. I don't have drama in my life. There's no drama. That's not part of my makeup. That's not part of my, MO. No drama. But that little situation, it was frustrating. Call it frustration, stress. Yeah, there was a level of stress. But the thing is this, it was manageable. It was manageable, and I knew that I was not gonna, and it's not a big deal. You may think it's not a big deal, but for me, it just had to work. And I just knew. That's why when I say things like, there's certain things that you just know. Yeah, I didn't have to believe that it was gonna work. I just knew that it had to work. I just needed to discover that stuff. And I cannot even tell you which app was the one that caused it to malfunction. I have no idea. The point is, and ever since, since Friday, everywhere I go, I use my GPS. Even if I know how to get there, I use this GPS. I'm just, I guess it left me with a little, mental thing. My husband just laughed and he said, honey, if it's worked for a few days, yeah, I mean, it works. And I didn't have to change my phone because I like my phone. I may change it, come September, but that is not even the point. The point is it's the same phone, just like you are in the same body. You are in the same body. You just have to do a reset, a factory reset. You have to do a reset and get rid of things that are malfunctioning and things that are slowing you down, because that's what happens also. I kept saying to them on the network provider, I kept saying, my phone is sluggish. And sluggish, it comes from when things are not working right. And when things are sluggish, and then they check the speed. They say, well, you have a good speed, and I open apps and they open right away and so forth. So, and not and now that I did the factory reset, it works like a charm. It's perfect. I liken that to my own life, and I'm telling you, when I think of that, I just keep going back and just checking out all the components: emotional, physical, spiritual, psychological, social, financial, all of that, physical, all of that, to make sure that my overall well-being are functioning to its maximum, utmost potential. And that's what you have to do, my friend, to make sure that everything is working according to your truth. If it's not working, if you don't feel free, if you don't feel, with certain liberty to just be who you are, it is not working, because you don't have the truth. Let that be your landmark. Let that be your guidepost. You will know when you are start feeling feisty and not putting up with certain things anymore and nonsense. One girl I chat with, and she said that, I said we are in the best season of our lives, and we don't have to, we don't need affirmation, approval, validation. We don't need to explain and all of that. I just was kind of encouraging her, and she said, well, I think I need all of that. And I said, that it got a little deeper. And then she says, my three sons are good at making me feel horrible. That's what she said. My three sons, and I don't know what ages they are, she says, are good at, and I'm assuming they're adults because, and she said, they are adults because of the dynamics of what she shared. And she said, my three sons are good at making me feel horrible. And first of all, I'm thinking, no one can make you feel any way. However you feel is because of your own thoughts about yourself. And I said to her, I said, well, I said, number one, I said, you have to start. And this was not a coaching session, but, she brought some things out of me because I felt a little compassion toward her, just because, whatever. Anyway, and I said, first you have to start out by setting boundaries. You have to, you have to set boundaries. But then I realized that most people don't set boundaries because they don't know who they are. And they think that you have to put up with this, because why? Because of all the programming that you have downloaded. You're conditioned to accept certain things and to let certain things pass, and to say, well, I'm not even going to bother with this, or I'm not going to start in it. No, 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 no. When it comes to you, you have to set boundaries. If it's going to be for your life, you must set boundaries. And that's what I said to her, and we just kind of ended on that note. She came back to me after. The point is, no one can make you feel any kind of way. If you feel any kind of way, or if you feel like, someone once said to me, you made me feel real bad, or you made me feel no, I can't make you feel this way. No, it's your own perception of yourself, of the situation. It's your own perception. You make yourself feel however. I can't make. It's like, when I'm in a situation where, something like either rubs me the wrong way or triggers me or whatever, I go right back to find out why. But myself, introspecting. I go into introspect. I don't go, no, you don't blame anyone. You find out why. Why did you feel that way? Why do you feel that way? Why is it? And you'll find out. And then you'll either fix it, correct it, return to factory setting, and restore that set of emotions or thought process. You restore it to how it should be. And how is that? Knowing your worth. Wait a minute, I know my worth. I don't have to submit to those thoughts or that behavior. I know my worth. Reset to factory setting. My friend, this is, to me, it's delicious because to me, it's so figurative when you think about it. And, because I have the experience of my phone working, it's exciting because, when I thought of it, I thought, you know what? That's what I have done. And that's why now in my life, there is this sense of freedom, of liberty, of not giving a damn what people think or what when you reach to that place and you really don't care and you come to accept, well, look, this is who I am. And if you are willing to live with yourself that way and accept yourself for who you are, not even accept, recognize and acknowledge yourself, because you don't have to accept yourself. You just know who you are, and you admire those traits that you have, your characteristics and the traits that are uniquely yours. And when you come to appreciate that and to really esteem that, then it doesn't matter what anyone thinks or say. Their opinion about you doesn't matter. If it's good, that's great. Sometimes people will tell you what they see in you, and that's a good thing. That's why I compliment people a lot. And when I see something good in someone, or something admirable, or characteristics, or this, that, the other, I make sure they know what I'm seeing. When it's something that's worthy of admiration, I make sure they know what others see, or at least how I see them. And I would make clear that, when somebody tells you that, that's the truth. That's the truth, that of what I'm seeing. Now, whether or not, people sometimes go, no, really, I'm not that, whatever, and try to bring on this false humility. When somebody does that, I just quit. I just stop, because that's another social construct. This whole thing of it being, trying to be humble, and you could look right through people, and you know that it's not humility, it's insecurity. It's not being sure, insecurity or fear. Because people, one of the things that I'm learning also, is that people are just afraid. People are afraid to take credit. People are afraid to take credit. I'm getting a lot of that. People are just afraid to take credit. Why? Because of religious indoctrination. And religious indoctrination tells you that you do not take credit for anything. So anything good that happens to you, you attribute it to God. You take credit for absolutely nothing. And that's a religious teaching. That's religious indoctrination. Do not touch the glory of God. And people are afraid. That's why you see, when they have these award shows and whatever, and people go up and they do like that and so forth. And again, we respect that. That's what you but if it's triggered by fear, then that has to be reset. Because if it's triggered by fear, then it's not authentic. And fear is a great motivator. If you're motivated by fear, then you may abstain from doing certain things, not because you don't want to, but because you're afraid. Big difference. It's because you're afraid of repercussion. You're afraid of punishment. Not because because you value the situation, but because you're afraid. And we need to distinguish those emotions. Whether it's because of insecurity and you say, well, no, I'm not really that way, or whatever, or it's because you're afraid because you don't want to take the credit. But I'm telling you, God would want you to take the credit. Find out for yourself. Find out for yourself, because when you realize the things that you are a magnificent creative being, and the things that you can do and accomplish and make happen, then you will be more bodacious. You will be more courageous. You will be more confident and assertive, and you will forge ahead. move and go forth and do the things to make your life the life that you want it to be. Because in order to be what you want to be, you have to become that person. And you become that person by a factory reset. You reset everything and you bring yourself into the real, into a reality. Reality refers to the state of things that actually exist, rather than things that appear, that might be things that are imagined. You become, because sometimes, we have a tendency to live a mythical life as opposed to the reality. And I did that for a long time. My religious indoctrination, caused me to imagine a lot of things. And I had to, again, when I talked earlier about being intellectually honest, I had to discover that. Cynthia, you need to be honest with yourself, intellectually honest. And when I submitted to that understanding and oh, just decided that I would be honest with myself, that's when I start seeing changes, positive changes. And I had no fear. That's how I discovered that's my truth. That set me free. It is fascinating. And I don't come here to impose my truth upon you. I'm here to tell you there is truth in you that you need to discover, your own truth. And you know what I have learned? When I started this journey of self-discovery, this was back in uh, 2009. And I think that's the year that I signed up with, a bunch of social media, because when I was in corporate America, that I didn't really have a lot of time for social media. I was career driven. And and what I have found is that, so when I started my journey, there were some people that I engaged, people that I became friends with on social media, that I, respected and so forth. And then there came a time that they were pushing their agenda. I mean, like, big time, pushing their agenda. Here I am trying to discover, me, the real me, for who I am. And they were pushing their agenda. And they said, "Oh, you've got to read this book, and you've got to read this book, and you've got to read this author, and you got to," and I would buy them. They're all in there. I haven't touched them because I just didn't. I was like, no, I need it to come from me. Because you know what? Guess what? When somebody writes a book, or when somebody has some thought, all of it, most of it, all of it, is based on their own personal experience. You can listen, you can learn from it, but you don't have to follow it unless it resonates with you. It's just like what I'm sharing with you. If it doesn't resonate with you, then you just need to scroll. But if I say something that resonates with you, then you go and you introspect, you search yourself, you get with yourself to find out, to learn your own truth. I am telling you, that which I have in me, that chip, and that ability to reset to factory settings and to, reprogram the chips, my mind, my thoughts, and all that. Those programs that are downloaded, get rid of it, reset, get rid of the virus, get rid of the mental virus teachings that no longer applies to you. Get rid of the virus, get rid of it. If you don't get rid of it, it will infect your whole well-being. It will infect your whole mind, your body, because your mind is what, your body functions based on what things are in your mind. return to factory settings, my friend. Return, and if you started this journey of self-discovery and really have been going through and have your ups and downs and things like that, with what I'm sharing with you today, just think of it this way: shut it off. Just shut it off. Shut it off. Shut it off. Shut it off. Shut it down. Clean it out. Start afresh. Brand new. A brand new canvas. And you decide what is it you want, the kind of life you want to live, where you want to go, who you want to be, the type of friends you want to have, the things you want to do. You decide. Why? Because it is your life. It is your life, and you have the ability to become who you are to be. And remember, the way you will know is when you feel a sense of freedom, a sense of liberty, a sense of not really caring. Because to get to that point where you don't care what people think or say, because I'm telling you, that's the biggest hindrance for most of us, caring. And, I'm shedding a lot of that every day. I shed a lot of that. I shed it. You shed that dead skin. I use a loofah, scrub my skin at night. You take off the dead weight. I do. I have this brush that I wash and I brush, and what happens is that the dead skin are removed, that everything that's dead, and all that thought of what will people say, what will people think, it doesn't matter. So I'm shedding all of those hiccups, hindrances that just can just stifle you and stunt your growth because you're concerned. And then when you think of that, you just think, well, who are they? Who are these people? Who are what qualifies them? You figure out what will work for you, and you will know what works for you, and you will know how to get rid of those thoughts. And with that, my friend, amigos, I'm gonna wrap it up. June 1st will make it a year that I started this show. And I'm thinking of I need to do something different, or I want to do something different. And I voiced the other day that I want to get someone um, on the show so that we can do kind of like a podcast, talking back and forth, and open the lines for questions and comments and things of that nature. I want to do that, but the right person, you watch, the right person is gonna show up. That person has to be the person with the right chemistry, with the right vibes, the right energy, an individual with their own uniqueness, but so that we can flow well together. We may not agree on everything, which is fine, because I like, different views, different opinions, and so forth. But I would want to have someone that whom I can trust and who will flow in harmony with me, and this way build a community, where you can, you know, uh, write in, or make your comments and so forth, and that we can dialogue, we can interact. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at, and again, that person will show up, that the right person will show up, and I will know who that person is. So anyway, with that, my friend, I'm going to leave you for this week. Now, Friday, you do what you got to do, and then comes the weekend. And I trust that you will make it a magical weekend. Now, um, if you need to send me an email or something, go to info@thecynthialinoxshow.com and just drop me an email. I read it, and whatever questions you may have or any comments you have, I'll be glad to address it. I'm also a certified life coach, and it's something that I just love to do because I I like to see people transform. We've got to renew our mind and see our lives transform into the newness of who we really are. I am your person. So if you feel that energy with me, give me a, shout out through an email. Or if I'm not that person, find yourself a coach that you can relate to and have that kind of, interaction so that they will help you to move forward, forging ahead to become your true, authentic self. And with that, amigos, I'm going to say tata, au revoir, hasta luego, hasta la próxima semana.